Hi! In today's video, I'll be matching the frame specifications of my customers' brand new frames. I'll also share some manufacturing tolerances and how that applies to anyone buying more than 2 frames of the same model. Alright, let's go inside. Let's say you're a competitive player and you have 2 or more rackets. Now the purpose is to have a reliable backup in case your strings break. But did you ever wonder why one of those rackets might be your favorite? Now, if the rackets are the same brand and model, shouldn't they be the same? Well, when you purchase 2 or more rackets of the same model, they're not always going to be identical. The good news is in this video, I'll share with you how I'll use a scale and a Babolat RDC to determine how much weight to add and the location of that weight to precisely match these frames. All right, let's get into it. All right, so the rackets I'll be working on is a new Prince Tour 100, the 290 gram version. And this customer bought 2 4 1/8 grips. And I'll go ahead and match them, and I'll put a blue tape on one of them so that I can identify the 2 rackets from each other. So I'll go ahead and we'll call the one without the tape number 1. So I'll go ahead and take the weight, the static weight, the swing weight, and the stiffness of the frame. All right, so this one's at 287 grams. And when I do the swing weight, I usually like to take 3 readings, so then that way I can just average it out, because it does change from one test to another by maybe 1 unit or so. So I just want to make sure I get a good feel for that. So that was at 293. The second one is a 293. So when I see 2 in a row that's the same, I'm probably going to just go with that number. And okay, they all came in at 293. I'm going to go ahead and take the stiffness also, just so I have a feel for the frame stiffness. Not that I can change it, but I like to see how consistent these frames are from one to another. This one came in at 63. All right, the second racket. Start off with the static weight. And this one is a 286, so it's 1 gram less than the first one. My first reading is 290. Second reading, 290. And the third one is also at 290. All right, we'll take a look at the stiffness. Right at 63 also. Alright, so before I go ahead and work on these frames, basically it's just going to be one. So when I match a frame to another, it's basically taking the lighter one, the one that has less swing weight, and adding the weight to it to make it match the heavier, or the one with the higher swing weight. So in the case of this first racket, it did have a higher static weight and a higher swing weight. And on the second one, this one had a lower static weight and a lower swing weight. So that's going to be a pretty easy fix. All I'm going to do is add lead to the head, and it's going to be a very little amount. And usually these frames are pretty well spec'd out. So, and in most cases when it's within plus or minus 2 units, I usually wouldn't mess with it, or even like in this case, 3 units. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I would typically do if it was over 3 units of difference. All right, but this customer also wants a Turner grip wrapped on the pallet. So I'm going to remove the existing grip and put one of these on, and I'll come back to you. Alright, so I completed the installation of the Turner grip, and again, this went straight onto the handle itself. So the grip originally started off at 4 1/8, but because there's just one layer of Turner grip, the grip is now slightly bigger than a 3 7/8. So, but that's the way she likes it, and she doesn't mind the hard, firm feel of the Turner grip by itself, just that one layer. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, oh, actually I did it already. I went ahead and weighed both rackets to see how much it dropped, because now you're looking at just one Turner grip, and it came down about 9 grams on both, so that's good. And the swing weight also came down a couple of units. So now racket number 1, instead of 293, it's at 291. And so what I'm gonna do is try and match that with on this second frame. All right, so since it's only 1 gram of difference, we're looking at just 2 inches of 1/2 inch width of lead tape. And I have it on a Scotch tape because what I want to do is just move it, have the ability to move it around to find the exact spot where it needs to be placed. So let's just say we'll just try and start at 12 o'clock. I know this is probably going to be too high with the swing weight, because at 12 o'clock, that's where it's going to make the most difference in increasing swing weight. So again, this one is the lower swing weight one at 288 is what I measured it, coming off of after I put the Turner grip on there. And see, it's coming out at 295, so that's like 7 units difference. That's quite a bit just for that little amount of lead tape. So I know that it's definitely not going to be anywhere close to the head. Originally I did say it was, but anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the weight as is. So instead I have 2 1-inch pieces of lead tape, and let's go ahead and try it at 3 and 9 and just see what happens in terms of the swing weight and what it does. So I want to just make sure that this is centered. So I'm going to target the between the 9th and the 10th cross. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So it's going to be right here. So yeah, basically I'm just trying to get it centered right in that area. All right, so this is 2 1-inch pieces of lead tape at the 3 and 9 locations. All right, 293, but I'm going to take 3 readings like I did previously just to kind of get an average. Sometimes it'll vary from one reading to the next. And so that's a 292. And 292, so it's averaging out at 292. So, well, the next step is I'm going to bring it down into the throat area of the racket, and I'll keep it at the very highest part of the throat and see what it does when I move it down here. All right, so that's 291. That's the target swing weight we're looking for. 292. Now let's just hope this one comes out at 291 and I'll be happy. 291, all right. So that's where we're gonna put this lead tape. Now the overall weight should match up to the other frame now, because this is only 1 gram of difference. Yeah, so it's right at 278, which is what that first one is. So what I'm gonna do is take off this temporary application, get a couple of 1/2 inch, 1 inch length, 1/2 inch width lead tape, and install it there. In reality, all racket brands have manufacturing tolerances which allow for variation in frame specifications. Here are two examples of manufacturing tolerances that are clearly printed on some of their frames. So on this first example, on the Babolat, for the weight it's plus or minus 7 grams, and the balance is plus or minus 7 millimeters. And for the Technofiber, you'll notice that it's less. It's plus or minus 4 grams on the weight and plus or minus millimeters on the balance. Now, I wasn't able to find any of the other Racquet brand manufacturing tolerances. So if you have any knowledge of what that might be, please comment below because I would be curious. If you go to the Tennis Warehouse website and check out the Racquet specification section, you'll notice that it has everything you need to know about the frame. However, keep in mind that these are average specifications. And also note that this is based on a strung racket. So the strings does add about half an ounce in weight and also 25 to 30 units of swing weight to the frame. All right, so I wanted to show you the final product. This was the one that was racket number 1, which was heavier and had the higher swing weight. And racket number 2 is the one I added 2 inches of lead tape, 1 inch on each side of the throat. Now with that added, the two rackets match perfectly. And it's always nice when I can get it spot on. So the overall weight was 278 grams, the swing weight 291, and even the stiffness, but it will come out to 63. So normally when I try to spec out rackets and I try to match them, I try to stay within plus or minus 2 units of swing weight and plus or minus 2 in grams. But yeah, so that's my tolerance for speccing out rackets. Now all I have to do is tell the player that it's all up to you. It's no longer the racket's fault. Players on the Pro Tour all have their rackets matched to their personal specifications. Now maybe you don't plan to play on the Pro Tour anytime soon, but it would sure be nice to know that your backup racket won't fail you in the third set tiebreaker. Thanks for watching, happy customization, and let your strings play.